The roster is set. The stage is set. The Giants have the only game going on in Major League Baseball tonight, hosting the New York Yankees. Does this team that quietly has one of the better position player groups in the sport have what it takes to finally break through and make the playoffs for the first time since 2021 and break this stretch of mediocre baseball? Tony Vitello is the manager. ABS is here. So much to talk about. Hello and welcome to Giants Baseball with Ben Kaspick. As the name suggests, we're going to talk about Giants Baseball, and my name is Ben Kaspick. I am the former host of Locked On Giants from around this time in 2019 through the trade deadline in 2025. And a little bit of breaking news here on the podcast. I'm going to be hosting a show for Locked On again starting this season. Starting on Sunday night, we're going to be recapping the day's action across Major League Baseball, usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, and the occasional Sunday mixed in. And we're also going to be continuing this show, talking about the Giants throughout the season as well. There just wasn't that much going on between the last episode and this episode. Previously I talked, speculated about what the roster would be day in and day out throughout spring training. But this time around, I just wanted to wait and see what is the roster instead of just guessing over and over what it would be. And we have a roster, folks, and there's a lot to get into besides just the roster. We're going to get to the roster itself. We're going to get to the season itself and predictions for the season. Tony Vitello, the ABS, I want to say system, but that's redundant because it's automatic ball strike. Oh, no, I guess it's not redundant. ABS system being in place. We're going to see that probably tonight. The first challenge of a strike zone call in Major League history, we will almost certainly see tonight. So lots to get into. Just a reminder, this show is on Substack. I should really figure this out, but some of it is free, but you have to pay to get the full show. And I literally set the paywall at the very minimum that it would even allow on Substack. So thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed already. And if you want these full shows, please consider subscribing for just $5 a month or $50 for the entire year. So I believe in order to listen to the full show, you have to listen on Substack. Some have said otherwise to me, but that is my understanding, so I'm a little bit confused. But moving on, let's just get to it. The Giants have set their opening day roster. One of the biggest decisions was made a few days ago when Bryce Eldridge, their top prospect, 6 foot, all 6'7" of him, 21 years old, was optioned to the minor leagues. He's going to start the season in AAA, and I'm going to explain why I think that was the right call for him. So that decision was made, and then today the Giants made a bunch of decisions officially, including that they designated Luis Matos for assignment. So this is one of the bigger decisions of the day, kind of in the sport when it comes to out of options players. The reason that he was designated for assignment is that he was out of options. So the two choices the Giants had were to either carry him on the Major League roster or they had to DFA him. Or they could have, I guess, traded him before DFAing him. But you can actually still make a trade within, I think it's 5 days of DFAing a player. So if some team really wants Luis Matos and they don't want to risk not getting him through the waiver process, they can still reach out to the Giants and try to acquire him in a trade. But it's just yet another disappointing outcome for a player who was formerly a legitimately top prospect for the Giants, along with Marco Luciano, who they also DFA'd this offseason. So that's kind of a big underlying story, is the failures of Marco Luciano and Luis Matos with the Giants. Luciano now, I believe he bounced around a lot. I think he's in the Yankees organization after being DFA'd and claimed like a bunch of times. He was finally DFA'd and unclaimed, and then he was outrighted to the minor leagues, meaning off the 40-man and into the minor leagues. So anyway, we'll see what happens with Matos. I wish him the best. He's still only 24 years old, and I think somebody will want him, whether via a trade or a claim. I don't think he clears waivers and ends up being outrighted to the minors. Anyway, let's talk less about who's not here and let's talk more about who is here. So, of course, you've got all the usual suspects, and I'm going to make the case that the Giants do have, and it's not just a biased opinion. I think they really legitimately do have one of the upper third position player groups in Major League Baseball. I don't think the same is true of their pitching staff. Logan Webb is a legitimate ace and one of the easily top 10, arguably top 5 pitchers in baseball. So that's a great start, but beyond that, it is not nearly as clear of a picture. Whereas on the position player side, you just kind of look through it. Patrick Bailey is very valuable because of what he provides defensively. Willie Adames is a very good player. Matt Chapman is a very good player. You have Rafi Devers, or I think he prefers Rafi Devers for a full season, and Luis Arraez added to this team as well. We've discussed the strengths and weaknesses of Arraez, and that's been talked about a gazillion times. We'll see how Ron Washington, the Giants' infield coach, I forget exactly his title, but he's known to be very good at helping players improve defensively. He's worked a ton with Arraez. He's worked with Devers at first base, worked with Eldridge at first base. So we will see if that work pays off. But anyway, that's a solid infield, very solid. Chapman, Adames, Arraez, and Devers. That's very good. And then, like I said, Patrick Bailey is, if you talk to analytics people or just read analytics stuff, Patrick Bailey is pretty clearly the best defensive player in baseball. Not just the best defensive catcher, but the best defensive player. And so one of the things to watch with Bailey will be how exactly does ABS affect his value. Now, if the strike zone was fully automated, this would be a totally different story. But as it is, you get 2 unsuccessful challenges as a team. And so that's not very many. And we will see how it plays out. But you can't just be challenging left and right on borderline calls. And so Bailey's framing ability is still going to hold up. And his ability also to challenge a pitch that's called a ball, but is actually a strike and be right has been kind of proven throughout spring training. So we'll see, and I'll let smarter people than me figure out exactly how that affects his value, but it looks like it may even make him more valuable relative to his peers than he already is. So Bailey's very good. And then in the outfield, one of the big storylines from today, as soon as, I was nervous because Tony Vitello said that Heliot Ramos is going to start in left, and that's going to break the Giants' streak of whatever it was, 19 years in a row with a different left fielder. I don't remember exactly how many years. I tried to black this out of my memory because it's not, some people find it fun, but every year since Barry Bonds in 2007, so he started in left in his final year with the Giants in Major League Baseball. And then ever since then, they have not had the same left fielder start 2 years in a row. I don't think they've even had the same player at all 2 years in any of those years, like in left. It's not like, one guy started in 2015 and then again in 2017. No, I think it's just a different guy every single year. No 2 names are alike. But Heliot Ramos gonna break that streak, but again, I said, I get nervous. What if he tweaks his ankle on the way to the ballpark. As soon as the game officially starts, Logan Webb throws a pitch and Ramos is out there and left. I'm not going to assume that streak is over. So we'll wait for that, and that'll finally bring an end to our long national embarrassing nightmare. Just like we saw the end of it with Willy Adames hitting 30 home runs last season, which also hadn't been done since Mr. Barry Bonds. So in the outfield, you got Ramos in left. They've added Harrison Bader, who had a hamstring issue going on, but is apparently, he's on the roster and apparently going to start. So that is good news because they brought him in to be an everyday player. And so if he wasn't able to start the season healthy, then they would have had to move some guys around. But they're basically fully healthy. Well, no, they lost some arms to injury in the spring, but none of their clear, obvious impact arms, and certainly on the position player side, very healthy coming out of spring. And then you've got Jung-Hoo Lee shifting over to right field. So there's not a weak spot in that entire mix. At worst, you've got a decent player. I would say, Arraez and Bader are kind of decent. Arraez is very polarizing. If you grew up in a certain era, maybe you view Arraez value him more highly than the modern game does. Just a reminder, he was available on a 1-year, I think it was $12 million deal, and that kind of reflects what the industry views about Arraez, despite him being a quote-unquote batting champion 3 times over, and probably the favorite to be the quote-unquote batting champion going into this year. The problem I have with that is that batting average alone does not equal best batter. It's good to have, but it's not. There's more to it than that, and so we'll see. But he's certainly not a scrub, and he's going to add value, and so it's a solid position player group. And then the backups, Daniel Susac, who was a Rule 5 pick that the Giants traded for, the brother of Andrew Susac, who used to play for the Giants and was traded for Will Smith, the reliever, who was then traded for, I don't remember. I'm losing track of that's not the point at all. But Daniel Susac is the brother of Andrew Susac, and he makes this team out of spring training, Rule 5 pick, meaning if he didn't make the team, they would have to offer him back to the Sacramento A's, and they did not do that. So they're going to carry Daniel Susac, and then backups on the infield include Casey Schmidt, who I think is primed for a big year, potentially, even though he's not, guaranteed a ton of playing time. I think the way it all plays out is that guys end up getting injured and tons of opportunities arise for guys like Casey Schmidt. And then it's funny that I said Arraez, because one of the guys that could have his job eventually taken by Schmidt could be Luis Arraez if Schmidt gets an opportunity and runs with it. So we shall see, but I do think of all position players who haven't broken out yet quite fully, Casey Schmidt, good argument to make, he's the most likely on this team. Although another guy, by the way, Christian Koss, also makes this roster as a backup infielder, both right-handed and versatile and good defenders. So that's one of the themes here on their bench is good defense, and we'll get to a surprising addition in the outfield as another good defensive player who brings a whole different element to this team than what we've seen in recent years. But Gerard Encarnacion, another player who was out of options. I did not want the Giants to lose both Luis Matos and Gerard Encarnacion, and ultimately they choose to stick with Encarnacion, who has shown flashes of being just a really potent bat with the Giants, but has not, he seems to get injured at the worst times, and I don't know, it just hasn't quite clicked for him in the major leagues, but he dominated in, I think it was the Mexican leagues, and that's where the Giants signed him out of. And I still think there's a lot of thunder in that bat, and he's probably going to be in the lineup, the starting lineup tonight against a left-handed pitcher in Max Fried. So Gerard Encarnacion is going to get a shot here. 28 years old, like still young. He's just had some untimely injuries throughout his Giants tenure, but there's a ton of power in that bat, and we'll just see if he can seize the opportunity that he's going to get. And anyway, they've also got Jared Oliva making this team. And so Oliva is it's one of the more interesting stories coming out of this opening day roster. He was a minor league signing by the Giants. They signed him to a minor league deal in January, and he's coming off a season in which he played. This is bonkers. I didn't even notice that it was in just 95 games for the Brewers AAA team last year. 95 games. So not even close to a full season. He stole 57 bases in 63 attempts. So that is a very good success rate. And then in spring training with the Giants, he stole 14 bases in 15 attempts, 14 for 15 in 20 games with the Giants, like almost a steal a game. So he also hit 375, 444 on base, 550 slugging in spring, which was 62% better than average, made a ton of contact, didn't strike out. So I don't know, the Brewers know what they're doing in general, and they have a good center fielder in Jackson Chourio. So maybe they just didn't have room for Oliva, but man, I mean, 57 steals in 95 games, and then you combine that 20 games this spring, that's 115 games, counting spring and last season. And how many steals is that? 71? 71 steals in 115 games. So huge element of speed that the Giants just have not had for the longest time. At a time when it's never been easier to steal bases, the league is trying to make the stolen base. They're trying to bring it back, but with the limits on pickoff attempts and with the bases being larger to kind of decrease the distance between the bases by a little bit, the Giants haven't taken advantage of that. They're frequently, if not at the very bottom, near the very bottom in stolen bases. Let's just check on last year. Second to last, 68. The Tigers had only 61. The Blue Jays, who went to the World Series, had 77. So you don't have to steal bases to be a good team, as the 30th ranked and 28th ranked teams in stolen bases proved. But I don't know, it's just nice to diversify your abilities offensively, and then sometimes you just need to steal a base. Like sometimes, pinch running late in a game, you get on base, down a run to lead off an inning, bring in a guy who could steal second and third. It completely can change a game. So Jared Oliva, right-handed hitting outfielder, also probably becomes the center field backup as opposed to moving Jung-Hoo Lee there. Lee struggled big time defensively in center last year. Heliot Ramos struggled big time defensively. Something I noticed in these two exhibition games against however you say it, Sultanes of the Mexican League in the last 2 days at Oracle Park. I had always complained the last couple of years that Heliot Ramos puts the defensive card in his glove, like in his palm. And I thought that must be a distraction. Like if I was playing, I would not want a laminated card in my palm, glove palm, while I'm trying to play Major League defense. So he did not have it in that glove the last two games there at Oracle Park in the exhibition season. So maybe that's just because they didn't have a report on these players in the Mexican League, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it's just not a big deal. Obviously, there's other things. He did make another boneheaded. That's the thing, is a lot of his defensive mistakes seem to be mental, and that's where it becomes kind of inexcusable. And I don't know if it's a spring training thing or what, but there was a ball in one of these exhibition games where he dove for it, which is fine. But then he just kind of trotted to the warning track to go pick it up, which allowed the batter runner to get a triple because Ramos didn't hustle after the ball, which would have held the batter runner to a double. So you cannot have that once the real regular season starts. So hopefully somebody got on him real quick, and if it happens in a real game, that they get on him real quick. You cannot take anything for granted. He's not going to go for 3. Just do not take that for granted, and you prevent a base, which can make the difference in an entire game. So anyway, little tangent there, but that's the position player roster. We haven't even gotten to the pitching yet. And coming up next, we're going to talk about the pitching, which there are a couple of additions, including a late signing. So I would kind of say 3 guys that surprise as additions, but could really help this team. Because it's Logan Webb. We know he's great, but what about everybody else?